something that is structured or restructured by means of change. We have heard about the importance of memory. Several papers address the concept of trace. Just now, we had a talk concerning the role of the vestige. But that's half the issue. The other is disclosure, discovery, what was unnoticed and unplanned. Yesterday I made the mistake of using the word marginal to name that dimension of places that productive projects produce, sometimes without intending to. So what has been and is yet to come. The present gives way to the past, but the past lingers in the present. So the past is a recent present. Likewise, the future is a past yet to come. So this intermixing of temporalities, the folding of what was and is yet to be into and somehow co-constituting the present, suggests that definition needs to be thought as a temporal phenomena, as if finishing is always unfinished. And the phrase that summarized this most articulately for me is that knowledge, sense, or meaning does not always precede the project, but results from it. That's where projection is productive. Then meaning is not given, or not always and only given, or what is given shelters unforeseen content, and through the project and what it reveals or opens new possibilities for residing, for qualification, and finally communication are possible. The second of my three agencies of redefinition for interior space are what so many addressed under the general heading of outside or external conditions. I have a quotation that I guess I've now memorized from one of the presentations. Interiors assimilate themselves to topography. And in that project of assimilation, things find their place. The poet Rainer Maria Rilke once wrote, "Only the person with wings knows what is near." As if what is outside the project co-determines its qualities. So several papers have explained quite beautifully how the interior is, I'm quoting here, a field of relationships, something like a matrix or web of interconnections that depend upon and allow for the development of both separations and connections, allowance and resistance of external forces. In other words, the suitcase contains things that point beyond its container. The elements or fragments that appear within that interior point beyond it. And it's this back and forth, so to speak, across the edge of the wall of the suitcase or of the interior that are decisive. And speaking personally, for me, one of the most fascinating parts of these talks is the interpretation of the public space as an interior. The public, here again I'm quoting, the public fills the interior. And Tina put it so very beautifully, coexistence precedes existence. That the individual finds her place or his place by virtue of relations with others. So the differentiation through encounter with something outside the interior space of the person or the place, is the means by which it obtains its or her definition. The third agency or power or force of qualification or redefinition or unsettling that I observed and suggest we try to think through again in future, I'll call the other arts, particularly the performing arts, whether it was the account of in ritual societies of people dancing together, playing music together, or as I heard in Tim's introduction this morning, how writers disclose aspects of interiors that designers, architects, and interior designers tend to overlook. I found a number of times we were benefiting from reference beyond our field to literature, music, film, and theater to understand better what is happening within our field. What would that understanding point toward? In some cases, patterns or rhythms of movement, structures of social encounter, how writers and playwrights, maybe even sitcom developers, when they open the fourth wall into an interior, show us things we tend to overlook. And those things are, I sensed an oscillation between the structures, the forms, the generalities of human affairs, and the specificities, the characters, the individuals, and the incidents. So in my thinking, as I've listened to the papers, I'm concluding that characters described in literature or in film find their place as they move within and against the structures that define the particular form of narration. So in the reveries, the simultaneities, the atemporalities that you pick up in the modern novel, or in music, or in the repetitions of dance and social formations on that temenos before the house, those are the things that both destabilize the plot and thereby reaffirm it. So it seems to me, and here I'll conclude, that the building, the interior, and the public space could, in a certain sense, with these last comments in mind, be seen as places of performance, of enactment, unfolding in time, always and usefully energized by externalities, structured to care for relationships. This morning, the term was spaces in between. And lastly, these sites of performance are disclosed in many acts that accommodate and represent both existing and possible patterns of our lives. And I suspect that that fourfold task, which is at once temporal, environmental, and performative, would be sufficient grounds for unsettling containers. Thank you.
Thank you.